I'm Brittany. This is Mo Run, and welcome to Gaywatch, where we watch and read gay things. Thank you for being here today as we continue reading Volume 10 of Erha by Meat Bun. This is how it works. We read for a couple of hours, we take a break around halfway through, and we typically get through around 40 to 50 pages. I have never read this series before, and so I will be reacting, discussing, and theorizing while reading. Therefore, no spoilers are allowed in the chat or comments for the sake of myself and any other new readers. We have a book chat on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for YouTube members and patrons to discuss what we read in the previous stream right before we read more in the next one. If you're looking for more queer bookish related chatting, there is an evergreen link to the public version of the Gaywatch Discord down in the description box, and there are also trigger warnings available in the description should you need them. Today, we read chapter 311, which I would be stunned if it wasn't the end of the main narrative of Erha. It's one chapter that's like 40 pages, 41 pages. And, it's literally called the grand finale. It is on page 205 of volume 10. Maybe we'll find out where our timeline Shimei is, because he's still kind of missing in action. Or he missed the action, really. We don't know. There are a lot of things going on. Morun and Chuaning have been reunited. And unless she's just straight up lying to me, which Meat Bun has worked very, very hard to make me not trust her over the course of 10 volumes. So I am going to respect that and doubt her now. It is not completely outside the realm of possibility that either this is not the grand finale and there's another chapter or two after this that's still part of the main narrative, or when she literally said the chaos had passed at the end of the previous chapter, she was lying somehow. And I feel like this is a compliment to Meat Bun, doubting her like this. I have tissues available. If you don't near you, I highly recommend them. And here we go. Rather than stopping at a chapter, we'll just have to feel out for where a good stopping point around, 4 o'clock will happen. We're playing it by ear. The grand finale. A month passed. Come one, come all, take a look, take a look! In Wuchang Town, a peddler's raucous shouts rang out in the sunshine. He waggled a flower-painted drum in his hand as he walked through the streets and alleys, balancing a bamboo pole on his shoulder. Holy Night Guardians! Holy Night Guardians! 30 coppers apiece, invented by the Yuheng Elder himself. They keep evil spirits away, work like a charm for all ages. Come, come, don't miss your chance. The peddler strode over the bluestone path in shabby straw shoes, his shadow stretching out behind him. Several giggling children ran past, hands full of tongulu, or colorful kites. A little girl in pigtails tugged on the peddler's sleeve. Uncle, I want to buy a Holy Night Guardian. The peddler set down his pole and held out an automaton lacquered a peachy pink. Here, isn't this one pretty? I'm not handling this well. It's literally been a month and he's already back to making things. Yes, so pretty, the girl exclaimed, nodding. I want this one. As if worried someone would snatch it before she could carry it off, the girl hugged the automaton that was nearly as tall as she was to her chest with one hand and clumsily felt around in her coin pouch with the other. She painstakingly fished out one copper coin, then another, but ended up 3 short of the price. Did I lose them along the way because I was running too fast? The girl asked nervously. She rummaged through her pouch again, even flipping it inside out to reveal the patched lining. But she could still only find 27 coins. She began to panic, eyes reddening. Dagaga, I lost the coins. This is all I have left. Is it enough? The peddler rubbed his grubby hands together. Little miss, he said awkwardly. I bought these holy night guardians from a cultivator for 25 coppers each. If I give you a discount, I'd only make 2 coppers. It wouldn't even be enough for a meal after walking around all day. What do I do? The girl swiped at her eyes. Daddy's gonna yell at me when I get home. Just as she broke into sobs, a man walked over, blocking the sunlight from behind her. Mister, please take this spare silver, an elegant said an elegant voice. It's okay. I'll be fine. Startled, the girl looked up to see a wrist clad in a snow silk bracer. Raising her gaze, she met a pair of jade green eyes, framed by pale gold hair, that looked even softer in the morning sun. Mei Hunshui smiled gently. How could I let such a pretty girl shed tears over 3 paltry coppers? The girl blinked. Mei Hunshui crouched down so their eyes were level. He picked up the pink holy night guardian the peddler had taken away and placed it back in the girl's arms. Even 1,000 gold can't buy the tears of a beauty. Nothing's worth more than a girl's tears, so don't cry over such trifles anymore, okay? Next to him was a man with unremarkable features wearing a straw hat. His eyes, however, were strikingly beautiful, a rich green like jade, though they were every bit as cold as that stone, holding no discernible warmth. The man frowned. That's enough. She can't be older than 6. Laughing, Mei Hunshui stood up. Daga, you're so boring. Beauties are beauties regardless of age. Whether they're 80 or 8, tall or short, fat or thin, they're all beautiful in their own way. You've got to learn how to compliment them. Otherwise you... Hey, where are you going? Mei Hunshui had heard it all before. He turned on his heel and strode off. On the orders of Tashui Palace leader Ming Yulo, the Mei brothers had come to Sichuan to congratulate Xisheng Peak on the sex reinstatement. Madam... Sorry, I just tripped right over that word. Tripped over that sentence. Xisheng Peak is reinstated. Xisheng Peak is back. She just dropped that so casually that I just... Where the fuck am I? Madame Wong's protection of Xisheng Peak's members had not been in vain. Now that the calamity had passed, all the elders and disciples had survived without serious injury, their abilities intact. After the recent shakeup of the cultivation realm, Xisheng Peak had vaulted into the top 3 sects. No longer was it the shabby, languishing sect of years past. Mei Gongcha, the sect leader is waiting for you at the dancing sword platform. The sect leader is waiting for you? I'm not prepared for this. It was time for morning practice at Xisheng Peak. Most of the disciples were on the drill grounds, the whistling of their swords cutting through the stillness. A young man in elaborate robes stood alone before the railing of carved white jade. Hands clasped behind his back, he looked down at the lush world below the cloud-wrapped peak. Mei Hun Shui and his elder brother made straight for him, their footfalls soft on the new grass of the field. The man didn't turn at the sound. He only sighed. "You're here?" "We are." "You made me wait long enough." Mei Hun Shui couldn't hold back a laugh. "Ziming, what's with the tone?" The man turned around. Shui Meng was as handsome as ever. A shade of boyishness yet lingered in his features. I'm going to skate right past the metaphor of that. Otherwise, I'm going to run out of tissues. As he gazed at the May brothers, his expression relaxed minutely, revealing some of that old impatience and naivete. "You guys have no idea how exhausted I am." Seeing that the twins had come by themselves, the rest of the tension bled out of Shui Meng's body. He heaved a long sigh. "The Xuanji elder's been on my ass about rules and regulations 20 times a day. When would I have learned this stuff? I can't even talk like a normal human being anymore. I have to speak in cryptic riddles all day long. Xuanji says it's called getting to the point." He... Mei Han Shui clapped a hand over his own mouth. Shui Meng glared. "Just laugh if you want to. Don't pretend it's a cough." No, how could I laugh at Shui Zunju?" Mei Han Shui said graciously, ever the gentleman. "You'd better not call me that ever again," Shui Meng warned, wrinkling his nose. "I've had enough of it." The elder twin was by far the more sensible one. "You must bear with it," he advised. "You'll be hearing it for the rest of your life." Shui Meng turned away to once again gaze at the clouds below. "I've got to hand it to you. That's the single most depressing thing I've heard since I wound up in this position." Mei Han Shui blinked. "By a long shot," Shui Meng added. The younger twin guffawed and slapped his knee, then turned to Shui Meng. "Being sect leader is a job like any other. Are there really so many rules that you have to follow? Look at Guiue's Jiang Shi. He seems to do whatever he wants." "Jiang Shi's alive." Also, look at Guiue's Jiang Shi. Sorry, I was so like, "Hey, he's alive," that I didn't even read what was being said to. He didn't even know that. He just was like, "I mean, look at your father." At the mention of Jiang Shi, Shui Meng's spine stiffened. Within his broad, gold-embroidered sleeves, where no one else could see, his hands balled into fists as unease flooded him. As it happened, Shui Meng had just returned from Guiyue a few days ago. Jiang Shi had suffered grievous injuries in the great battle. It was fortunate that his sect possessed many powerful medicines and master healers. They'd managed to save him, but his health was no longer what it had been. Most concerning was the fact that he'd been infected with demonic qi, which was causing unforeseen changes to his body. "What will happen to him?" Shui Meng had asked one of Guiyue's elders outside the door to Jiang Shi's room. "Hard to say," replied the elder. "The gate to the demon realm hasn't been opened in millennia. We have no records of what happens to humans infected by demonic qi. The sect leader is out of danger for now, but we can't predict the long-term effects." Shui Meng shot a worried glance toward the room's entrance, shrouded in layer upon layer of jade-green gauze. Never mind Jiang Shi's condition. Shui Meng couldn't even tell how his quarters were laid out. "Can he be cured?" The elder shook his head. "I'm afraid it will be challenging." Shui Meng closed his eyes, anxiety simmering in his chest. "If you ever need anything, come to me at Xisheng Peak anytime," he said at last. This elder had no idea what had transpired between Shui Meng and Jiang Shi, but even he could sense there was some complex new dimension to their relationship. He sank into a respectful bow. I offer my sincere thanks to Shui Jungmen. Shui Meng waved a hand, peering again into the, abstruse depths of those curtains. What the fuck is abstruse? What is that? I wrote it down to look up later. He wanted badly to see Jiang Shi in the flesh, but the sleeping quarters of the sect leader were more closely guarded than a lady's boudoir. And as the sect leader in question was unconscious, it wasn't as if anyone else could invite him in. Unsure how to respond, Shui Meng knit his brows. I've returned Shui Huang to the elder who manages the sect's weapons arsenal. Please let Jiang Zhenmen know that when he's well enough. Of course, answered the elder. He noticed Shui Meng still hovering, as if he had more to say. May I ask if Shui Zhengmen has any additional instructions? Never mind, it's fine. I'm leaving. Many thanks to Shui Zhengmen for coming all this way, the elder said, nodding courteously. I don't think I'm ever going to get used to Shui Meng being called Shui Zhengmen. That's not going to happen. Certainly not going to happen in 38 pages or whatever the hell. Shui Meng had had his fair share of public clashes with Jiang Shi, but that had been as the young master of Xishang Peak. Now that he was sect leader, Guyue's people wouldn't slight him if they could avoid it. Several elders and healers accompanied Shui Meng as he descended the steps of Ascension Hall, with its graceful swooping roof ridges of jade green tile. Guyue was nourished by a stream of spiritual energy all year round, and its flowers bloomed regardless of the season. Shui Meng glanced around. Although wispy snow flurries were still falling on Rainbow Isle, lush blossoms flourished in the brisk air. Catching sight of a spray of pollia flowers, especially luxuriant, Shui Meng couldn't have said what he felt. He paced down the open-air corridor, the boards creaking softly beneath his feet. A bell shaped like the head of a beast rang beneath the eaves. Shui Meng looked up at the sound. A young man around his own age was rounding the corner, coming toward him. Behind him were two lines of attendants with daggers at their waists. The young man's face was extraordinarily handsome, his shoulders broad. In the morning light, he radiated disarming warmth and vitality. When it came to looks, Shui Meng was difficult to impress. Yet even he couldn't help sneaking a few more glances at this man. Which could mean nothing. As he neared Shui Meng, the young man stopped and bowed very properly, respectful but not obsequious. Shui Zhengmen. Shui Meng pulled to a halt. And this is the sect leader's personal attendant, the elder smiled, sensing Shui Meng's apprehension toward this young man. He's been helping the sect leader manage various affairs within Guyue in recent years. He doesn't often show his face outside Rainbow Isle, but the sect leader thinks very highly of him. Shui Meng hummed in acknowledgement. The young man rose from his bow to find Shui Meng scrutinizing him. He broke into a smile. Now Shui Meng could study the young man's face up close. Though he didn't usually pay much attention to the appearances of others, this man's good looks were striking indeed. His eyes, especially, were bright and soft, as though stars sparkled from within their depths. It was a face that etched itself into the viewer's memory at first sight. Shui Meng narrowed his eyes and examined the man with renewed energy, trying to find some shortcoming over which he could feel superior. But even after looking him up and down several times, there was nothing to find fault with. This young man was surpassingly good-looking. He was young, yet reserved in temperament, with gentle features and a tall, well-proportioned build. His skin was so clear and luminous it seemed to glow from within. Such a fine young man belonged among the upper cultivation world's gallant heroes. He didn't deserve to be squirreled away in Guyue, toiling in the dark. Shui Meng thought stiffly. To hide a jewel like this in the dust. Zhang Yichen really was a piece of work. The fine young man was discomfited by Shui Meng's unblinking regard. Nevertheless, his voice was warm and polite as he asked, Shui Zhengmen, is there something I can assist you with? Only then did Shui Meng come to his senses. No, it's nothing. But he continued to stare openly. Even the best attendant, no matter how well esteemed, would have no formal status. If Shui Meng didn't ask him outright, this man would never volunteer his name. It would be considered an affront to the sect leader. The perceptive medicine elder had noted Shui Meng's curiosity. Shui Jingmen, he might be young, but he can handle anything that arises on Rainbow Isle, he said with an enthusiastic smile. He puts us elders to shame. The young man bit his lip, reddening slightly in embarrassment. The elder is too kind. Shui Meng was growing only more intrigued. Seeing that one of the attendants behind the young man carried a lacquered tray, he asked, Are you going to see Jiang Shi? The young man hadn't expected Shui Meng would call his sect leader by his given name. He swiftly recovered from his shock and nodded, smiling again. What a perfect opportunity. If Shui Meng hinted that he wanted to go with him to pay his respects in person, there was no way the young man would refuse him. Here was his chance to enter Jiang Shi's room via honest means and see for himself what sort of sorry state he was in. Shui Meng cleared his throat, yet before he could speak, he heard the young man say amicably, I'm bringing you Fu his medicine. Shui Meng froze, his face falling. What? Sorry, I almost forgot, the elder said hurriedly. He's woo! He's also Jiang Zhengmen's adopted son. I didn't think I was going to be signing on to Step Brothers today, but here we are. Moments later, several elders could be seen hurrying after an ashen-faced Shui Meng as he strode down the corridor outside Ascension Hall. Shui Zhengmen, they anxiously called after him. Shui Zhengmen, what's wrong? Are you unwell? The new leader of Xisheng Pink stomped down the steps, steel-toed boots clicking against the wood. His jaw was clenched, his expression stormy. He didn't give a damn what pets Jiang Shi kept at home. That was none of his business. What rankled him was that Jiang Shi quite obviously had a highly capable adopted son in his own sect, yet still acted like he was all alone in his old age before everyone else. Was it some kind of play for sympathy? It was more than shameless. It was nauseating. Seeing the strange expression on Shui Meng's face as he recalled this encounter, Mei Han Shui asked, What's going on with you? Nothing, said Shui Meng. I just thought of someone, that's all. He didn't want to talk any more about Jiang Shi. After changing the subject, they chatted for a while longer until Shui Meng led the twins to Xisheng Peak's ancestral temple to light fresh incense for their departed heroes. That was just a lot of a page and a half. I'm somewhere on this page. As they entered, Mei Han Shui spotted an unusual-looking tablet beside the altar. A piece of red cloth obscured the name beneath. That's for Mo Ran, said Shui Meng. At Mei Han Shui's silence, Shui Meng continued, his expression coolly inscrutable. Everyone says he's dead, but I don't think so. After we came through the rift that day, Shizun walked down Kunlun Mountain. He was clearly going somewhere. He just didn't want anyone to come along. He pressed his lips together, then lowered his lashes. At any rate, I refuse to believe Mo Run vanished just like that. Shuimeng. Shuimeng turned his face away, squinting into the sunlight outside. That damn mutt Mo Run always insisted on doing things his own way. He doesn't care what's normal. Shuimeng paused. I'm sure that hasn't changed. Mei Hunshui heaved a sigh, but didn't contradict him. The twins knelt and bowed to their benefactors. Shuimeng stood to the side, eyes closed in silence. Once they finished paying their respects, Mei Hunshui rose and patted Shuimeng on the shoulder. Ziming, you'll be a good sect leader. Shuimeng opened his eyes. Ash scattered from the burning incense. Through the veil of smoke, Shuimeng looked at his father's memorial tablet, black with stark white words. I won't be better than him, he said evenly. No one replied. Let's go. Shuimeng waved a hand and strode out of the temple. The twins exchanged a glance. They sighed, then followed Shuimeng out the door. Within the solemn walls of the ancestral temple, a clump of ash whispered down. Though the three young visitors were no longer present, the sticks of incense they'd left behind on the dark, glossy altar remained. The small tablet of lacquered wood hadn't been inscribed with the name or title of the departed man, as one would expect. Behind those 3 pinpricks of light, the wooden tablet bore words Shuimeng had carved with his own hand. Here lies a father, his kindness irreplaceable, his loyalty unsurpassed. At the very bottom of the tablet were carved 3 comical words. The Mei twins and Shuimeng all knew that if Shui Jingyang were watching from the heavens, he'd surely let out a familiar booming laugh at the sight of them. The ever-bright lanterns flickered, illuminating the elegant calligraphic script, modeled after Shui Jingyang's own writing, every stroke fluid and effortless. Shui is beautiful. That's a scene break. We're on page 215. That night, Xisheng Peak held a feast to welcome the visitors from Tashui Palace. The 2 sects were on close terms, and this was a private event, closed to the prying eyes of outsiders. Nevertheless, stories soon began to circulate. Rumor had it that the newly instated sect leader Shui had downed several cups of liquor at the feast and become hopelessly inebriated. Sect leader Shui was a chatty drunk, and that night he had quite a lot to say. He'd alternated between crying over his parents, ranting about his gaga, whining for his shizun, and mistaking his attendance for Shimei. I mean, I've clocked that because I don't know where the final water bitch is. But either way, it's funny. Every other coherent word out of his mouth, which were few as it was one of their names. But of all his old friends, Mei Hunshui was the only one who had come. Deep in his cups, Shuimeng sprawled over a table, head pillowed on his arms beneath the glow of the lamps. He stared at Mengpo Hall over the crook of his elbow, watching a blurry crowd milling about, drinking and making merry. In that crowd, he saw Shui Jingyang and Madame Wang toasting each other. He saw Shimei and Mo Run folding dumplings. Later, after most of the guests had left and his surroundings had quieted, he saw the Yuheng elder in a bright red cloak, standing in the drifting snow outside. He shook the flurries off his oil paper umbrella, then strode toward the rest of them. Sect leader, you're drunk. Shui Meng heard these words only vaguely. He didn't heed them. Eventually there came a sigh, and the weight of a warm robe draped over his shoulders. Who had sighed? Was it the Xuanji elder or the Tianlong elder, or someone else entirely? Later, still, someone patted him on the head. Young master, you're drunk. He made a garbled noise of agreement, but somehow tears were running down his cheeks. He buried his face in his arms. It was late, the hall was a mess, and the party was over. Shui Meng didn't speak or grab anyone's arm to wail and make a fuss. He was trying to grow up, to grow into his father, as fast as possible. Maybe next year he wouldn't be such a lightweight, and in a few more years he wouldn't babble so foolishly even if he did get drunk. Years after that, hardly anyone would know what Shui Ziming of Xisheng Peak looked like when he cried. Gradually, he would stretch his limbs to the sky as a big, strong tree, capable of holding up all of Sichuan, even with the whole cultivation realm. Someday, the nights he used to bawl his eyes out and gulp his wine without a care would become light-hearted tales with which sect leader Shui would regale his juniors. Such was the fate of every generation. When Shui Meng himself grew old, the youngsters would tell of their elders' adventures, but no one would have witnessed them firsthand. Perhaps the details of those glory days would fade with time, a story told in broad strokes. In the end, all that remained would be those familiar words on Shui Meng's fan. Shui is beautiful. Not the 1-2 punch. Not clocking me again on the next fucking page. That's another scene break, by the way. So Mei Han Shui taking care of him at this. Like, what do you want from me, meat bun? Several days after the Mei twins returned to Tashui Palace, an announcement went out to the entire cultivation realm. Beginning in the new year, Kunlun Tashui Palace will formally enter an alliance with Xisheng Peak. United in purpose, our sects will join forces to bring peace to the land with no distinction between the upper and lower cultivation realms. Sect leader Ming Yulo and sect leader Shui Ziming hereby announce their partnership as a testament to their loyalty and dedication to the people of this world. The news caused quite a stir. Some voiced hearty approval, while others were bewildered. Yet others received the news in silence. They knew this new alliance would shift the balance of power across the world, perhaps within the next decade or two, perhaps even sooner. The boundaries between the upper and lower cultivation realms would slowly blur. Isn't this a good thing? Someone asked his friend as they chatted over tea. The friend took a sip of his snowy fragrance tea and shook his head. Who can say? Back in the day, Nengong Changying brought the 9 great sects together to form the upper cultivation realm and hoped that the lands they presided over would become a paradise on earth. Everyone clapped and cheered then, but it didn't live up to its promise. Only time will tell whether or not this is a noble choice. Oh, very true. At least we won't be living under a tyrant, though. Guyue is no match for Tashui Palace and Xisheng Peak's combined strength. Hard to say. Jiangxi is not one to play nice. Forget it. What's the point of getting too involved? One step at a time. And anyway, we should worry about ourselves first. These snake gall melon seeds are pretty good, the man called toward the bamboo screen. Miss, another caddy, please. As winter yielded to spring, the wounds across the lands had slowly begun to heal. With the aid of the great sects, the villages and towns that had been ravaged by strife were rebuilt one after another. There had been some who'd lost all hope to the darkness, but fortunately it was never too late for human hearts to change. That's on page 215. 218. 218. Fuck this bitch. Perhaps there would come a day when cheers would fill what was now silence, and fireworks would bloom across what was now an empty sky. Those who'd followed blindly would open their eyes, and those who'd held their tongues would speak. The meek would stand firm before those who would intimidate them, and the honest would drown out lies with truth. Everything was constantly renewed and rebuilt, like a city rising from the ruins. Yet the line between good and evil was often still difficult to discern. This was not in itself a problem. After all, it was impossible to understand anything completely. Most people didn't even understand themselves. Consider this simple question. You have a pair of eyes, but have you ever really seen your own face? That's another scene break. Bravo, another story! In Lin Yi, beneath an old scholar tree, a storyteller nodded to his audience after finishing his tale. Chu Shenzhen is such a good person. One of the listeners dabbed at her eyes. I wonder where he is now. Mo Shenzhen really got screwed over, someone else said with a sigh. A little girl only half as tall as the grown-ups around her sucked on the tangulu in her hand, her dark eyes shining and her cheeks wet with tears. Sniffling, she turned toward the boy with her. I don't like Nangongaga and Yijiji's story. Okay. We're telling them all of the... Ooh, her friend blinked. Why not? The girl swiped at her tears with the back of her hand. They all died. But Yuangshi didn't die, the boy muttered. The girl hiccuped. You don't get it. Boys are dumb. She'd be less sad if she died. Faced with the girl's angry tears, the boy was at something of a loss. He scratched his head, then said, Come on now, stop crying. Hey, let's play house. I'll be Nangongsa, you be Yuangshi. We'll make up our own story. Don't cry, don't cry. The boy plucked a leaf the size of his hand from the tree and put it over the girl's cheek to cheer her up. Here, take your veil. Let's bow to heaven and earth and get married. The girl blinked, then laughed through her tears. In the eyes of a child, pain was something that could be rewritten. There was no burden that wouldn't eventually lighten. All their love and hatred, their bitter goodbyes, would slowly be woven into the Jianghu's lore. Beneath the old scholar trees, the storytellers would speak their legends into existence. They'd trade into the vicissitudes of these heroes' lives, peddling their glory or their shame for a handful of tears and a crowd's applause. The two childhood sweethearts solemnly took their bows with the leaf as a veil. Eyes only for each other, they called sweetly. We bow first to heaven and earth, we bow second to our parents. A black-robed cultivator strolled by the scholar tree. The newcomer possessed elegant, handsome features and wore an old quiver on a belt. Its exquisite embroidery faded with age. There were no eras in it. Now that the great battle was over, the world was at peace. Instead, a little pup with golden claws was curled up inside. Whimpering softly, he peered out at the world beyond. The cultivator stopped beneath the tree, watching the two children with the ghost of a smile. After a moment, she walked over and handed a red handkerchief to the girl. Huh? The girl froze. What's this? And who are you? How can you get married with a leaf on your head? The cultivator said in lieu of answering. Here, this is for you. The handkerchief was well worn, made of soft, fine fabric. In the corner was embroidered the character "Se." It was a keepsake from many years ago. When she'd gotten scared in that training illusion and started to sob, Nangongsa had fished out this handkerchief for her to wipe her tears. The girl looked the handkerchief over, even broke into a sunny smile. Thank you, Jija, she said, raising her head. The cultivator blinked in surprise. Her eyes lit up, shining like stars. For years now, it had been a scant few who could tell at a glance that she was a woman. On top of her appearance, there was also the voice-changing spell she could never remove. It seemed this little maiden had quite a sharp eye. The cultivator shook her head, then straightened and patted Naobajin's soft head. Time to go. What are you staring at? Naobajin whined. The breeze picked up, rustling the leaves of the scholar tree. The storyteller was narrating the battle at Mount Jiao, in which Nangongsa had thrown himself into the blood pool to subdue the demon dragon. The crowd listened with rapt attention, a few wiping their eyes as the story reached its climax. But the cultivator no longer cried. She turned toward the distant mountains, a solitary, straight-backed figure in black. Behind her, the girl and boy's sweet voices floated over the breeze. Now, as husband and wife, we bow to each other. She stepped out of the scholar tree's shade into dazzling sunlight. That's not the window I'm looking for. That's the window I'm looking for. I'm not sure if that was a scene break or not. No, it wasn't. Though she didn't know why, a smile stole across her face, eyes curving into crescents as warmth bloomed in her chest. There was nothing better than being a kid, she thought. Even the most solemn rituals of eternal love were performed so freely and easily. She'd walked some distance before she heard the sound of a child's hurried footsteps behind her. Dojija, your handkerchief! Without turning her head, she gallantly waved a hand. Naobajin looked up at her with a wide-eyed, confused stare, as if to ask, That's Asa's old handkerchief. You don't want it anymore? She grinned, her gaze soft. No. The field before her spread out in all its springtime splendor, teeming with new life. She caught a flash out of the corner of her eye. Nangongsa was standing next to her. She wasn't surprised to see him. His face still held a touch of willfulness, prideful and self-assured. I know you're there, she said. The phantom Nangongsa knit his brows in apparent disapproval. Don't be mad, she said softly. They were getting married, but they didn't have a veil, so I gave them your handkerchief. Nangongsa glowered silently. A handkerchief for a happy union. Isn't that something to smile about? Beneath that brilliant sunlight, Nangongsa offered her a begrudging smile. It was uglier than if he'd made a face. She smiled too, lowering her lashes. When she looked up again, Nangongsa was gone. But she knew he'd be back. He was neither a ghost nor an illusion. He was in her heart, so she'd be able to see him whenever she wanted. as handsome and high-spirited as he was in life. That's a scene break. I too am partaking in the group hug that's going on in the chat right now. I know I said the hand holding was perpetual, but I still feel a need to bring it up every now and then. And I was deeply remiss to not bring it up at the start of the stream. But we are holding hands, by the way. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, New Year's Eve drew near. According to the customs of the cultivation realm, Shuimeng's period of mourning for his parents had ended. Thus, in the last month of the year, he officially took up the mantle of Xishang Peak's leader. People flocked to Sichuan from near and far to congratulate him in the lavish celebration that followed. In that darkless night, spangled with lanterns and fireworks, Shuimeng dutifully observed all the formalities propriety demanded, as outlined by the Xuanji elder. He wore an elaborate jade crown and the sect leader's ring. His ceremonial robes were composed of 9 layers of silken gauze, so fine even the flying dragon motifs curling around his cuffs boasted embroidered eyes of tiny fire-tempered pearls. As he stood within the solemn expanse of Loyalty Hall, his face, handsome and mature, might have been carved from Kunlun jade. If any had known to look, they would have seen that his resemblance to Jiang Shi was most apparent in his eyes. But he'd never take the surname Jiang, and he had no wish to be likened to Jiang Shi. Congratulations, esteemed sect leader. The Xuanji elder led the disciples of Xishang Peak in bowing first. They knelt in a great wave, light glancing from their armor. The rest of the celebrants followed suit, lowering their heads one after another. The rumble of movement reverberated like the roll of thunder across the misty mountain peak. Congratulations, esteemed sect leader. Fireworks bloomed across the night sky, marking the beginning of a new golden age for Xishang Peak. What belonged to the past, whether pain or comfort, was gone forever. Shuimeng smiled. His eyes were dark and calm, but duller than they once were. He raised his cup and drank with the guests. The gesture was measured and dignified, a far cry from the laughable gaffes he might have made before. In the crowd, Mei Hunshui sighed quietly. He closed his eyes. This guy, he's really becoming Nangonglu. Watch your mouth. Mei Hunshui eyed his brother. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, I just mean his new position. I don't care what you mean, the older twin said coldly. Anyway, 26 girls have already come looking for you since the beginning of the banquet. Take off your mask. I've had enough. Mei Hunshui's masked brow crumpled in exasperation. After the feast concluded, Xishang Peak arranged for its disciples to receive the visiting sect leaders, elders, and disciples according to their station. With so many guests, there was no other way to manage it. The visitors made their way back to their quarters, unsteady with wine. They had come to witness the transition of power, and each had their own preoccupations. Shuimeng, too, returned to his room. He wasn't drunk today. The Tanlang elder's sobering soup was extremely effective. Kneading at his brow, he sank into a chair. He wanted to shed all those heavy pendants and jade tokens, but after glancing at the mirror, he couldn't figure out where to begin. The Xuanji elder rapped on the door and let himself in. Sect leader? Yeah, Shuimeng mumbled listlessly. Here's a list of all the gifts the other sects sent. Jielu forgot to bring it to you earlier. Xuanji handed him a thick booklet with a red and gold cover. Look it over with care so we can return to their gestures appropriately. Shui Meng's exhaustion compounded. Okay, got it. Also, Jiang Zhengmen is asking for a private audience with you. I don't want to see him. Xuanji didn't insist. He'd always been the most emotionally astute of Xisheng Peak's elders. Then I'll turn down his request in a moment, he said with a sigh. Is there anything else? That's it. Shui Meng had been hoping there might be. In fact, what he really wanted to hear was, 2 mysterious guests showed up and asked to see you. But Xuanji said no such thing. He saw himself out, closing the carved red door of the sect leader's quarters behind him. Shui Ziming stood alone and unmoving in that spacious room for some time. Eventually, he lit a lamp and began to peruse the register of gifts. The gifts were listed in descending order of extravagance. Guyue, the richest of the sects, was naturally at the top. The register was full of flashy-sounding words like flame-plumed tail feathers and spiritual whale pearls. Shui Meng had never even heard of some of these items. Jiang Shi didn't hesitate when it came to spending his money. But Shui Meng wasn't in the mood to pore over lists of treasures. He rifled through the booklet, scanning for Chu Wanning and Mo Run's names. Although many wandering cultivators hadn't attended the celebration in person, they'd still sent gifts. Today was one of the most important days of Shui Meng's life. If Mo Run were still alive, if Chu Wanning remained in the Jianghu, they had to have heard about his accession to sect leader. Tashui Palace, Huohong Pavilion, Wubei Temple. He flipped page after page. He turned back to the pages listing gifts from cultivators unaffiliated with any sect, reading them a dozen times over. But they weren't there. Shui Meng sat back in his carved rosewood chair, sinking into the soft cushion. He brought a weary hand to his forehead. They weren't there. His Shizun, his cousin. It was like they'd vanished. There'd been no trace of them since that great battle. From outside came the sounds of laughter and the crackle and whine of firecrackers, but the leader of Xisheng Peak remained holed up in his room. Wetness slowly gathered on his lashes. I'm just saying, they could have left you something under a different name, my man. There isn't anything that strikes you as some weird niche reference that only you and either Chu Wanning and Mo Run would know of? Maybe. He still couldn't accept the way Chu Wanning and Mo Run had deceived him. He'd likely never be able to see the two of them again without feeling a wedge had been driven between them. But when all was said and done, deep down, he was terribly worried about them. When they'd set up the tablets in the ancestral temple, everyone had told him Mo Run was dead. But Shui Meng refused to budge. He needed to see the body before he would believe it. See? He knows. He understands. Shui Meng gets it. Until I see a body, and, you know, in certain stories like Erha, even when I see a body, without the evidence of his own eyes, there was no way he would allow that red cloth to be removed from the tablet. In truth, there was no turning back from all that had happened. Though he'd tried to put himself in their shoes, he couldn't make himself feel at ease. As soon as he remembered what they'd hidden from him, his heart seemed to seize in his chest and his stomach twisted in knots. He could barely breathe. He knew, too, that it was precisely for this reason that Chu Wanning and Mo Run might never return to Xisheng Peak. Such a relationship between Shizun and disciple was strictly forbidden. The world would never accept them. But couldn't they at least send a letter? Couldn't they at least tell him they were okay? Shui Meng blew out a breath and laid a hand over his quivering eyelids. Suddenly, a sound like a distant sigh drifted in from the window. He was on his feet in an instant, rushing over to push open the window panel. The light of the fireworks flickered over his face. He looked left and then right. There was no one there. But a long, thin brocade box hung from the peach tree just outside the window. Shuemeng reached out, every muscle tensed. He opened the box with trembling fingers. A firework hissed as it shot into the sky, bursting into 1,000 glittering stars against the dark night. By the light of those dazzling motes, Shuemeng beheld the narrow scimitar nestled within the box, pristine as if freshly forged. Its silver hilt gave way to a long, tapering blade, inlaid with a gleaming lunar crystal. It was a newly restored Longcheng. Shaking from head to toe, Shuemeng tucked the box into his robes and vaulted out the window. He leapt into the air above the garden and yelled, "Shizin!" The only answer he received was the soft whistling of the breeze through the quiet back courtyard. "Shizin!" he screamed wildly. "Moran, where are you?" The night wind was cool, brisk and damp on his cheeks. He scrambled through the flowers and plants, heedless of the twigs scratching his arms and snagging his robes. "Show yourselves!" His voice had risen to a tearful howl. Shuemeng slowed to a stop. His spine bent as he curled in on himself. "Come back," he whimpered. A faint melody floated past on the wind, the reedy sound of a leaf flute. Shuemeng froze. He slowly turned in the direction of the music. Finally, he saw them, but they were already far away, below the distant heaven-piercing tower. Behind the tower's dignified ornamental eaves, those two familiar figures had paused. One sitting, one standing. The one sitting balanced the holy weapon Zhuge on his lap, sleeves flying in the wind. The one standing was clad in close-fitting black robes, playing a bamboo leaf between his fingers. I visit old friends with the bright moon on high, faces red beneath the lantern light. The young phoenix crows to greet the spring dawn over leagues of mountains and rivers at peace. Save the wine you hid in your youth, for your brother will return to see you in time. We needn't remain always so close at hand. Whenever I miss you, I'll send the east wind." The distant sounds of the chin and the leaf flute flowed from those figures beneath the silvery moon and drifted into the immaculate night. The congratulatory song came to an end. There was a flash of golden light. Chuan-Ning had summoned his paper dragon. The pair leapt onto the dragon's back and soared away on the wind. Afterward, Shuemeng found 2 letters, written in very similar hands, tucked into that brocade box. One was from Chuan-Ning, and the other was from Mo Wei-yu. Like I can handle letters. Mo Wei-yu had written a lengthy letter containing details of various stories and events, and laying out many secrets he had kept from how the world would receive them. I just skipped a line. It's hard to see when everything's blurry. And laying out many secrets he had kept from Shuemeng in the past. He confessed that because they were unsure how the world would receive them, they didn't want to show up without warning and risk dragging Xisheng Peak's name through the mud again. As for Longcheng, he and Chuan-Ning had gathered the materials over the past few months and found a way to reforge the blade anew. He hoped Shuemeng would find it useful. Chuan-Ning's letter was much shorter, containing only a few lines in his neat, precise hand. I saw the first two words. So give me a second. Because I need my throat open when I read in his voice. Octagonal suggested that it starts with Dear Mung Mung, and it's worse. Addressing Shui Meng. No, that's not what it says. I just had to make sure that I could do it. Sect leader. Guilt weighs on my heart. I am ashamed to face you. The road ahead is yet long. Pray look after yourself. Within Long Chung's hilt is embedded a night-glow Haitong blossom. May it keep you company when I cannot. If ever my meager abilities may be of use, I am yours to command. Yu Hong. Shui Meng stared at the words sect leader for a long, long time. Even as the darkest, stillest hours of the night descended upon the abandoned drinking cups, he remained awake, lost in his thoughts. Perhaps he'd never again hear his Shizun call him by name. There would only ever be that title, sect leader. At this thought, he felt more frustrated than ever with the rules and regulations of the world. But at least Chuaning and Mo-Run were still there. Maybe he'd be 1,000 miles removed from them in the future. Maybe their paths wouldn't cross for years. But at least they could look up and admire the same moon. From whichever far-flung corners of the earth they settled in. This knowledge, at last, brought him some small measure of comfort. That's a scene break. We're a little past 4. So now is going to be the time where we take a break. We are on page 229. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Feel free to hang out in the Gaywatch break room while I'm gone. Say hi to Meihan Shuel for me. And I'll be back in just a minute. Give the stream a like if you cried. See you in a second. Welcome back to Erha. We are on chapter 311 on page 229 at the scene break. It was interesting how the chat was, understandably, destroyed by Chuaning referring to Shui Meng as sect leader, because it's like Shui Meng said, even if they come across each other now, he's only going to be referred to as sect leader, and it's sect leader, not something like more affectionate and honorifics, and I totally get that. But in thinking of it from Chu Waning's perspective, I was destroyed, and like, I mean, obviously Shui Meng's side of it is terribly sad. But I think Chu Waning's side of it is like the opposite. I think he's so fucking proud that his disciple has become a sect leader, that like sect leader was imbued with so much respect and affection, and that like he only meant like the world by it, right? I feel it in my bones that that's where Chu Waning is coming from, like down to my core. So much so that I didn't even realize it could be a sad thing until I saw chat's comments during the break. Oh, and Liv says he also referred to himself as Yu Hung like Shui Jingyang did. Yeah. No, it completely. Yeah, that's the only way I can see it. That just has to be. I've read this bitch for 10 volumes now. It simply has to be. My neighbors chose now to mow their lawn. Really? Really? Bitch, it's March. In fact, we're not even up on the Ides of March yet. I'm gonna need you to calm down. I know we're in a Carolina, but still. As long as you guys can't hear it, then. Page 229. At the foot of Xisheng Peak, in Wuchang Town, two men in hooded cloaks walked out of the darkness and strode through the bustling night market. Dear God, I'm so happy I cut the break where I did. They stopped at a food stall hung with bright lanterns. The taller man spoke up. Sir, a pot of clear gudong soup with bamboo shoots, tofu, bean curd skin, spinach, sliced beef, sliced lamb, tripe, crispy pork, crystal filleted fish, lotus shrimp balls. That's enough. We won't be able to finish it, his companion cut in. Okay, in that case, we'll add a sweet and sour squirrel fish and 2 jars of soy milk. His companion's lips pressed into a tight line. Stop ordering. These, of course, were none other than Chu Waning and Mo Yu, who had come down the mountain after delivering Shui Meng's gift. And some sweet osmanthus lotus root, Mo Run concluded. He smiled. Do you know how to make it here? We didn't used to, the stallkeeper responded enthusiastically. It's a dish from the Jiangnan and Huai River regions, you know. But Xisheng Peak's Mengpo Hall often makes it, and we're right here at the bottom of the mountain, so we learned from them. Right, we also have a special menu here, a heroes combo. Do you want to look? Chu Waning furrowed his brow. Sorry, what kind of menu? A heroes combo. You guys never heard of it? The waiter puffed out his chest. The 2 cultivators who saved the world are both from Xisheng Peak, don't you know? These days, all the spots in Wuchang Town know how to make a few of their favorite dishes. The waiter plucked 2 sets of bamboo slips from his belt and handed them to Chu Waning and Mo Run. This one is Chu Shenjun's menu. As if worried they still didn't understand, the waiter continued his animated explanation. Apparently, Chu Shenjun likes food that's kind of charred and burnt, so we have charred meatballs, super crunchy goba, burnt tofu with cabbage. Oh yeah, and the squirrel fish here is fried extra crispy too. Chu Waning listened in stony-faced silence, while Mo Run took a sip of tea to cover his laughter. But when he glanced down at Mo Shenjun's menu, he almost spit it out. He burst into a fit of coughing. The waiter jumped. Mister, are you okay? Can I get you anything? I'm fine. Sputtering, Mo Run pointed at the second set of bamboo slips. What is this? Why do you have a bunch of pastries with sweet high tongue filling on here? Is that even a thing? Apparently, Mo Shenjin likes sweets. Mo Run blinked. And he likes high tongue blossoms, the waiter nodded sagely. So our boss invented these sweet high tongue pastries. There's tons of sugar inside. They're 3 times sweeter than normal pastries, guaranteed to make your tongue tingle. Is something like that even edible? Of course it is, answered the waiter. They're super popular. Do you two want one combo each from Mo Shenjin and Chu Shenjun's menus? These are all their favorites. You won't be disappointed. Chu Wanning's head was starting to ache. No, thank you. I don't like burned stuff. Mo Run laughed. And I don't really like sweets. Oh, too bad, too bad. The waiter scratched his head ruefully. He seemed to hold these new menus in high regard. Even after he turned away, they could hear him grumbling. But these are our savior's favorite dishes. Aren't they at least worth a try? Chu Wanning sat in mute shock while Mo Run let out a snort. What are you laughing at? Chu Wanning eyed him. Is it that funny? Not really, said Mo Run, his eyes dark and gleaming. I should have scheduled an extra half hour into this stream just for crying alone. I'm just happy. As long as I'm happy, anything can make me laugh. He glanced at the bustling streets. The chaos had passed, and the warmth of the mortal world had been rekindled. Women picked out cosmetics and bought red paper goods ahead of the new year. Men gathered around the food stalls, drinking and chatting. In the brilliant glow of the lanterns, their faces were relaxed and cheerful. Even their greasy cheeks seemed like a sign of good health. A pack of children roamed the street, shouting and laughing. They were playing some sort of game. One child wore a mask, while the others scurried away from him like rabbits. Don't let them catch you, they called out between fits of giggling. Mo Run propped his chin in his hand. There was something endearingly earnest about the gesture, adding to his handsomeness. He heaved a contented sigh. How wonderful. He looked up toward the lights twinkling from Xisheng Peak. How wonderful, he said again. Not everything's so wonderful, Chu Wanning pointed out. You heard Shui Meng calling for us just now. Mo Run fell silent, then mustered a smile. But if we'd really stayed, it would only make things harder for him. I know. The first of their dishes arrived. As he ate, Mo Run muttered, Shui Meng is still too much of a kid. This is the best arrangement we could hope for. If we went back to Xisheng Peak, only trouble would come of it. Plus, he could probably put up with me for a couple of days, but a couple of months? No way. He crunched a peanut between his teeth, looking affronted. He'd throw me out. Suppressing a laugh, Chu Wanning tapped him on the head with the blunt end of his chopsticks. You're the one who's acting like a kid. I'm serious, replied Mo Run. If he throws me out, it's not like I can refuse the sect leader's orders. Perish the thought. This won a soft chuckle from Chu Wanning. Don't joke. He'd never throw you out. We're the ones who don't want to stay. Don't shift the blame onto him. Okay. Mo Run scratched his head and grinned, 2 dimples tucking themselves into his cheeks. Whatever Savior Gaga says. Eat, said Chu Wanning. We'll go home when we're done. They were presently living deep in the forest of Nanping Mountain. Ever since Mo Run's souls had returned to his body, they'd rarely left that cottage. They hadn't intended to enter seclusion, but the circumstances happened to be just right. Thus, they'd made a home. In that idyllic corner of the world. Everything was as perfect as it could be. Selecting a piece of crispy pork, Morun smiled more broadly, black eyes curving into crescents. Actually, you're right. I am the one to blame. The fuck did my pen go? Oh, no, I just wrote down the wrong... She has me so fucked up. No, I did write the right... I don't want to stay. Are you worried he'll be mad at you? No. Morun rubbed his nose and chuckled. I'm afraid he'd call me Xinyang. Chu Wanning glared. Morun's eyes were dark as ink, almost purple in the shifting light. These days, that sharp purple gleam had softened to a gentle shimmer. He heaved a sigh. I jumped ahead an entire generation, just like that. Eat. Morun lowered his head and obediently ate. One could almost see a pair of canine ears sprouting from his head, tamely flopping downward. I'm going to hunt her down! I am going to fucking steal my neighbor's lawnmower. It's a riding lawnmower, and I am going to run her over. Fuck this woman. He wasn't truly unwilling to return to Xisheng Peak, and Chu Wanning knew it. In truth, all of them, Morun, Shuimeng, and himself, wanted to be together again. But time's passage wore everyone down. Those days of blissful ignorance had run their course, and no one could wish them back into existence. All three of them understood this, but Morun didn't want Chu Wanning to be sad. He'd rather shoulder the blame himself and tease him until he laughed. Speaking of which, I never actually asked you, said Chu Wanning. After the battle, how did you know you'd be able to come back? Morun shoveled rice into his mouth, considering the question. Will you be angry if I tell you the truth? Chu Wanning fixed him with a clear-eyed stare. Go ahead. Will you be angry if I tell you the truth? Will you be angry if I tell you the truth? After every fucking thing that they've done, will you be angry if I tell you the truth? Will Chu Wanning... Yeah. And in fact, you know what? Sure. After all of this, at the ass end of Volume 10, after everything we've seen Chu Wanning do for you, this is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. This is what makes him leave. He will leave and never fucking come back. And be perfectly happy not being by your side in this or any timeline. Is Will Graham in love with me? Like, please. Morun rubbed the back of his neck and ducked his head, smiling. Hi, she has me so fucking fucked up. I didn't even say the quote right. Didn't even make the quote correctly. Is Hannibal in love with me? Spoken by Will Graham. I'm not okay. I'm not. My psyche is somewhere splattered on the back wall. Morun rubbed the back of his neck and ducked his head, smiling. When the gate to the demon realm opened, I could feel spiritual energy circulating in me. But Taishan Jun was in charge back then. My mind wasn't clear, so I didn't realize the implications. I was at the very end, when I was almost gone, that the idea occurred to me. He paused. I was betting I was like Song Xingyi, one of those special butterfly bone beauty feasts. The ancient scrolls say the demon race can be reborn as long as their bodies are preserved and their souls are complete, right? So I thought, If I was right, I should be able to return to my body, as long as I wanted it badly enough. A tiny furrow appeared between Chu Waning's brows. I always thought the stories about the souls of demons being able to return to their bodies were no more than legends. He hesitated, then asked, but in that case, why was Song Chutong unable to resurrect herself? Even if a demon can come back to life, it's only possible if their desire to live is extremely strong, Milrun said with a helpless shrug. That feeling was like, how do I explain it? It was like someone put a rope in my hands before pushing me off a cliff. But the rope was covered in oil. If my attention slipped even a little, I would have fallen into the abyss. I had to hold on with everything I had and pull myself up. I couldn't let myself relax for a moment until I came back to my body. Mo-Run looked up and met his eyes. Wanning, all I could think about was how I needed to find you. That's what brought me back. The lanterns above them swayed in the wind. As Chu Wanning gazed into Mo-Run's eyes, so deep and dark, he felt something melt inside his chest. It was a vulnerable feeling, disconcertingly unfamiliar, and he quickly turned his face away. Mo-Run grinned. There's another reason. Butterfly Bone Beauty Feasts are only half demon. Before the gate to the demon realm opened, we wouldn't have been able to achieve rebirth that way, Mo-Run explained. But when we absorbed the demonic chi, it made us stronger. Otherwise, we're like ordinary mortals. After I absorbed that demonic energy, I realized it was even more powerful than my spiritual core. Even though my heart in this body was badly damaged, I thought I might be able to reverse it. So when you told me to go back, you actually weren't sure whether or not you'd be reborn. Chu Wanning trailed off. It wasn't until Mo-Run saw Chu Wanning's eyes narrow slightly that he realized his mistake. He cleared his throat. Hey, this fish is pretty good. But Chu Wanning was not so easily put off. If you hadn't come back, there would have only been your ice-cold corpse waiting for me once I got to Nanping Mountain, he said, his stare drilling into Mo-Run. Mo-Run could hardly stand to hear him sound so grim. He ducked his head, biting his lip in silence before looking up again. That's right. Chu Wanning blinked, taken aback. I couldn't bear to let you die, whether or not I was able to live. The ends of Chu Wanning's eyes had reddened, perhaps in pain, or because he was about to lose his temper. Mo-Run covered Chu Wanning's hand on the table with his own, and gently rubbed his fingers. Haloed by the rich lamplight, he said hoarsely, I knew it might be a lie. But even if you hated me and resented me for the rest of your life, I couldn't watch you die in front of me. He closed his eyes, lashes quivering. I'd already experienced that in 2 lifetimes. Slowly, the tension bled out of Chu Wanning's spine, and his clenched fingers relaxed. But the tails of his eyes remained red and slightly damp. Steam spiraled from the gudong pot, tiny bubbles swirling to the surface of the clear broth. Against this lively backdrop of hard-won mundanity, Mo-Run interlaced his fingers with Chu Wanning's. I thought back then, if I lost my bet, I'd wait for you, however many decades it took. If you ascended to immortality, I'd wait hundreds, even thousands of years. Chu Wanning found he couldn't speak. The mortal realm is so beautiful. Wanning, I didn't need you to come to the grave with me. A big bubble burst in the pot. Hot liquid splattered onto Chu Waning's wrist. A few drops of broth weren't enough to cause injury, but he instinctively jerked his hand back and lowered his head. Then he thought he ought to be more composed than that, so he steeled his heart and forced himself to look up. He glared across the table at that foolhardy disciple who didn't know what was good for him. Mo-Run had to laugh. What's wrong? First you glare at me, then you glare at the table. Whatever retort Chu Waning would have made was cut off by the toll of a bell from the heaven-piercing tower, high upon the mountain. The sound echoed over the bustling night market in Wuchang Town. Chu Waning paled as he realized the hour. Oh no. It was time for them to switch. Chu Waning studied the man sitting across from him. His expression had just been cheerful, but now his eyes snapped shut. A wave of anxiety washed over Chu Waning. Ever since Mo-Run had come back to life, after every third day at midnight, Taishan-jun's consciousness would take hold of his body until the night of the following day. The cognizant soul that had remained in Taishan-jun had been separated from Mo-Run's other souls too long. Its consciousness hadn't merged easily with his other self. Although his souls were finally all together, his personality underwent a marked shift every few days. Well, we, I, head empty. I literally can't even make fucking jokes right now. I got nothing. Head empty. When Mo-Run opened his eyes again, the quality of the light within them had changed. Slowly, Emperor Taishan-jun raised his handsome face. He was the same person in the same body, yet somehow his bearing was instantly less wholesome and more dangerous, suffused with latent threat. Taishan-jun bared his teeth in a devilish smile. It's been 3 days. Waning, have you missed this venerable one? Chu Waning stared at him, heart thudding in his chest. Taishan-jun glanced down at the bowls and chopsticks, at the half-eaten pot of gudong soup. The discerning eye of the erstwhile emperor of the mortal realm fell upon the shabby wooden chairs crowded at the edge of the street and the narrow, greasy table. For Mo Zongsha, these things encapsulated the precious warmth of the human realm, but for Taishan-jun, waiter, get your ass over to this venerable one. Mo-Run, sit down. These two sharp shouts startled the diners around them. Everyone turned. Wait, someone called out. Isn't that Chu Zongsha? No, you're kidding. They can't be outed by Taishan-jun. What? Oh, is that Mo Shenjun too? Isn't he supposed to be dead? Someone come rub the cobwebs out of my eyes. I don't think I've gone quite blind yet. You're not blind. I see him too. Oh, a girl shrieked. It really is Mo Shenjun. No, come on, man. Come on, man. Come on. The commotion caught the attention of passers-by, drawing more and more eyes. A few recognized them with certainty. Grim-faced, Chu Waning grabbed Emperor Taishan-jun, who was still shouting, "How is it even possible to eat at such a pathetic little table? Is this some kind of sick joke?" and summoned his sword. Before any more curious onlookers could gather, he leapt onto Huaisha and fled the chaos. That had apparently not passed. Not until they were high in the air did Chu Wan-ning let out a breath of relief. The moonlight was crisp and lovely, and the calamity had passed. All was well, save for Taisha and June grumbling irascibly behind him. What's so great about Mo Shenjun? Insolent brats. Why do they only remember Mo Shenjun? Chu Wan-ning didn't bother to reply. It was this venerable one who repaired the Xuanwu barrier, Taisha and June raged, and it was this venerable one who stopped the flood. It was this venerable one who saved all their sorry asses. Finally, Chu Wan-ning glanced over his shoulder at the seething man behind him. Was he really so petty as to be jealous of himself? Yeah. Noticing Chu Wan-ning's amused gaze, Taisha and Jun was at first taken aback, then narrowed his eyes. What do you think you're looking at? Feigning indifference, he huffed out. Even you belong to this venerable one too. He grabbed Chu Wan-ning around the waist. Caught off guard, Chu Wan-ning snapped, "Watch it." The sword wobbled beneath their feet. Taisha and Jun flicked a finger, stabilizing it with demonic energy. He wrapped his arms tighter around Chu Wan-ning, tucking his gold-embroidered black cloak around them. What are you scared of? He scoffed in deep displeasure. With this venerable one here, how could you possibly fall? Oddly romantic, Taisha and Jun. He urged the sword upward and onward. High in the moonlit sky, the sword streaked toward Nanping Mountain like a black whirlwind. Wrapped in the dark night, they were just like any other pair of lovers. They went home. In time to come, people would occasionally catch glimpses of Mo Zongsha and Chu Zongsha throughout the Jianghu. They became the Elvis of the Jianghu. I saw Elvis at a gas station. But they always came and went without a trace, like a pair of graceful shadows. Later still, another legend began to circulate throughout the cultivation realm. Later still, another legend began to circulate throughout the cultivation realm of a blind doctor who traveled the land. He appeared always in a bamboo hat and veil, obscuring his face from view. All anyone knew for certain was that his healing abilities were unsurpassed. He traveled to the most barren and destitute regions, treating anyone who sought him out without taking a single copper of payment. One story about this doctor was particularly well known. A group of youths in Wuchang Town had been kidnapped by cultivators as children. Their skin had been burned off, and they were made to resemble Pishu. It was practically impossible to reverse the damage done. When this traveling doctor came to Wuchang Town and heard their plight, he cut the flesh from his own arm to make medicine and used it to nurse those youths back to health. The grateful residents of the town had begged to learn his name, but the doctor replied, "I'm merely a sinner, nothing more." The warning shots. The 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 warning shots came back around. The kids from like the first 50 pages of volume 1 who had been can't get up from the desk. Can't get up from the desk. I could, but we don't have time. I can't get up from the desk. Ooh, I can't get up from the desk. Oh man. Oh, I can't get up from the desk. Man, if I hadn't have started hating this bitch in like volume 8 or wherever the fuck, I'd fucking hate her now. Ooh. Many more years passed. That great battle fought in another world faded into an old tale recorded in yellowing scrolls. The children from those days had grown tall as weeds. The youths were rearing families of their own, and the heroes were growing silvered at the temples. Once again, winter gave way to spring. Shui Ziming, the leader of Xisheng Peak, had taken a young disciple under his wing, whom he'd raised as if he were his own son. The little boy felt at home from the start, fearless even before the distinguished sect leader Shui. He trailed behind Shui Meng day in and day out, asking any question that popped into his head. One day, Shui Meng's disciple ran over to him. Shizun, I heard a lot of things about what Shizu and Shishu did in the past. Does Shizun still talk to them these days? Shui Ziming, the foremost leader, starting that again. Shui Ziming, the foremost leader of the cultivation realm, stood next to the window, gazing at the peach blossoms outside. Once in a while, he responded. His little disciple was practically vibrating with interest. Then why don't you invite them back here? Without waiting for Shui Meng's answer, the disciple chattered on. The Red Lotus Pavilion and Shishu's disciple quarters are still empty. No one else has ever lived there. He tugged on Shui Ziming's broad sleeve. Shizun, why don't you invite them back? I've listened to lots of storytellers talking about them. They all say Shizu and Shishu are great heroes. Shui Meng fastened a pair of light brown eyes on his disciple. In the spring sunshine, he seemed to be hiding a smile beneath his stern expression. Do you want to be a hero someday, too? Of course. The little disciple puffed out his cheeks, full of determination. How could Shizun's disciple be anything less than outstanding? I'm going to do a bunch of really important things. The first footnote. Where the fuck even was it? I only know it's there because I see the note at the bottom of the page, but I don't remember it. Shishu, right. Shizu, a term of address for the master of one's master. Shishu, a term of address for one's martial uncle. I don't have time for long fucking bouts of silence between every goddamn thing. Being outstanding doesn't only mean doing important things, Shui Meng pointed out. If you can live a righteous life without taking advantage of the weak or bowing to the strong, without growing arrogant in good times or losing hope when times are hard, if you can carefully and thoughtfully consider the people and events you encounter, choosing mercy whenever you can, if you can stay true to yourself and your principles, then, by the time you're an old man, you'd be a great hero. That's on page 241. Silence. Is something wrong? Well, yeah, Shui Meng, that's not sexy. You remember being a kid. When Shui Meng turned to check on his little disciple, he saw him stifling a yawn. Yawn. He was still very young, after all. Noticing his teacher's eyes on him, the disciple snapped his mouth shut. Tears of weariness gathered in the corners of his eyes, but he straightened up and nodded contemplatively. This sort of over-competitive behavior was so reminiscent of a certain son of the Phoenix in his youth. Shuimeng held back a laugh. Putting on a serious expression, he asked, "Will you remember that?" "I will," his disciple said quickly. "Did you understand it?" asked Shuimeng. "I..." His disciple sounded a little downcast. "I didn't." A pause. "Shizun," he said plaintively, "what you said is too complicated." Shuimeng didn't blame him. After thinking for a moment, he patted the boy on the head. "Forget it. It was too much." The disciple giggled. "If you want to be a hero, you have to remember one thing." I haven't even read what comes next yet. I'm just literally bracing myself. The boy stood at attention, as though Shuimeng was about to teach him some unbeatable move or reveal a deep secret. His bright eyes opened wide. The sunshine slanted across Shuimeng's face. Beneath the dappled shadows of the flowers, he smiled. "The greatest dignity you can give yourself is to refrain from judging others rashly." There are a lot of themes and issues and topics brought up over the course of 10 volumes of this fuck-ass series. But I tell you, as much as that previous paragraph of an explanation was sort of everything, she still managed to sum up something that I can't help but look to as the point. That's the entire point of Erha. Right there. I love it when storytellers find a way to slip in literally just the point. Everything else is built around the point, narratively, dramatically, character-wise, all the things. Which is probably why it's so satisfying to be able to spot when an author just slides the point in. Especially when it's done, well. That's it. That's the point. 2 years. I've been reading this this is what I go insane. I've been reading this 2 years. This is the point. This is why I've been here 2 years. The greatest dignity you can give yourself is to refrain from judging others rashly. He bent down, scooping the uncomprehending boy in his arms. Shuimeng walked like this all the way to the end of the garden. From here, they could see the steep summit of the Cliff. The Red Lotus Pavilion was shrouded in mist. I'm refusing to glance at the art that's on the other page. From here, they could look down through the floating clouds at the distant towns below, the river winding through them like a ribbon of jade. The wind blew, taking with it all the little disciple's tiredness. He was no longer yawning, but he was still so young every flower and bird diverted his attention. Shuimeng stood with him by the carved railing, gazing out at the landscape of Sichuan. "What do you see?" The boy wasn't sure what answer he was looking for. "Mountains, buildings, water, and fog." Shuimeng listened with a smile. His temperament had steadied over the years. It had been a long time since the days when he lost his temper at the drop of a hat. They looked out at the world below. Where the boy saw buildings, Shuimeng saw the burgeoning prosperity of Wuchang town at the foot of the mountain. Long ago, it had been a shabby little village, but now it was a hive of activity, even livelier than the grand cities of the upper cultivation realm had once been. Where the boy saw water, Shuimeng saw the river of forgetfulness, flowing eastward, Sometimes he could almost see an old monk standing on its banks, a soul-calling lantern in his hand, saying to him solemnly, "Shueishuju, on this journey to the underworld." Where the boy saw fog, Shuemeng saw the wisps of those departed souls, lingering around Xisheng Peak year-round. His father and mother were among them. He caught glimpses of them everywhere. On the dancing sword platform in the rear garden, in Mungpo Hall, on Naiha Bridge. He saw them even when he closed his eyes. Perhaps mortals possessed yet another kind of soul in addition to the 3 ethereal souls and 7 corporeal spirits, one that resided in the hearts of those who loved them. Whenever you were missing someone, they would appear at your side. It's page 244. Shuemeng held his little disciple in his arms and gazed at Frost Sky Hall in the distance. Within it, many of his relatives and friends now rested in coffins of black snow. The Jailu elder had passed from old age during the great snowstorm in early spring of last year. The Xuanji elder, too, had departed a few years ago. Everyone always said he'd done so many good deeds, Yan Lo would come for him sooner rather than later, lest he cheat the Lord of Hell by ascending. Shuemeng had watched his elders leave the world one after another. At first he'd been hysterically distraught, but by now he was calm, or maybe he'd merely accepted his powerlessness. When he found he was able to arrange the Xuanji elder's funeral proceedings with ease, Shuemeng couldn't help but reflect on the youth he'd been. But these were passing thoughts, and no more. No longer would he allow himself to become trapped in the mire of the past. He was the sect leader, as well as the Yuheng elder's disciple. He had to keep his eyes on the road ahead. Shizun? A small hand waved before his face, summoning Shuemeng back from his reverie. Shizun, what are you thinking about? The past, said Shuemeng, smiling. The boy's earlier enthusiasm was instantly rekindled. About Shizu and Shishu? He asked eagerly. Actually, they return every New Year's Eve, said Shuemeng. You can meet them this year. His disciple pouted, looking unsatisfied. But why do they only come on New Year's Eve? Why don't they stay? I heard Shishu is super powerful. With one stroke of his sword... Shuemeng poked him in the forehead. Your head would be gone. The boy stuck out his tongue, not scared in the least. Really, Shuemeng said very seriously. Your Shishu can be a little... what's the word? Unpredictable. Huh? Unpredictable? Shuemeng nodded. I'll introduce you to him this year, but you can only stay until midnight. He knows, and he knows the rules. Uh-huh. Sure, because one of the times they'd seen each other, they communicated the rules. Oh, he's seen them again. Ugh. Why? The boy asked, eyes growing wide. After that, you have to leave. Unless you want to call him your majesty, said Shui Mong. The boy blinked. This answer hadn't cleared anything up at all. But before he could ask another question, Shui Mong seemed to recall something he'd rather have forgotten. He put the boy down and kneaded at his brow, as though afflicted with an awful headache. It was the first time the boy had ever seen his Shizun look so distressed. He grew even more interested in this unpredictable Shishu who was the subject of so many stories. Shizun, Shizun, he wheedled. Is Shishu? That's enough questions. Then is Shizu? No more. So, Shizu and Shishu. Go back to your room and copy your books. Oh, Shizun, you're so scary. It was a crisp, clear day in Sichuan. The pristine sunlight scattered through the branches onto this master and disciple. The breeze picked up, ruffling Shui Meng's robes and caressing this little boy's. Oh, fucking. Sorry, we're on the last page. What the fuck was the sentence I was in the middle of? The breeze picked up, ruffling Shui Meng's robes and caressing the little boy's rounded cheeks. It blew past the majestic buildings of Xisheng Peak, past the jade green grass growing up before the gravestones of heroes. The wind swept over the vast lands, swirling across the world in an instant. It brushed past a charitable blind doctor, past twins admiring plum blossoms in a field of snow. It brushed past a woman who raised a cup to Dragon Soul Pool on Mount Jiao, past lovers nestled within the quiet of Nanping Valley. These places remained unchanged by its passage, serene and calm. People's paths would cross and diverge again. They might walk alongside each other for miles, or part and meet again by pure happenstance. Thus did the fates of countless people collide and intertwine. It was impossible to stop time on a night of drunken merriment or linger forever within a beautiful dream. But everyone carried the shadows, their family. Friends. And lovers had left upon their heart. It mattered not if they were dead or alive, or if they'd ever meet again. Those shadows would follow them like their own, wherever they chose to go. The wind whispered past the high-tongued tree in front of the heaven-piercing tower. Its branches were laden with flowers, just like years and years past. The long night was over, and everywhere in this sprawling world were places one could call home. All was at peace. Shui Meng looked up at the lofty mountain peak, at the stately tower. Some memory seemed to stir in him, and he broke into a smile. Taking his little disciple's hand, he set out across the grounds of the world's foremost sect toward Loyalty Hall. He seemed to hear the song another Shizun and his disciple had once played beneath the heaven-piercing tower, back when he'd first taken up the sect leader's mantle. That melody drifted through the long river of time, dispersing like snow behind the sect leader's shui of this year, this day. I visit old friends with the bright moon on high. Faces red beneath the lantern light. The young phoenix crows to greet the spring dawn over leagues of mountains and rivers at peace. Save the wine you hid in our youth, for your brother will return to see you in time. We needn't remain always so close at hand. Whenever I miss you, I'll send the east wind. The end. When we come back on Thursday, we'll be on page 249 for chapter 312 and the start of the bonus stories, in which there better be a lot of fucking. The first bonus story is called Returning to Live in the South. The fuck is my bookmark? Oh, the diamond under the title. Oh, they have a little thing of a cat, of the white cat and the dumb husky. Fuck off. That's where we're picking up. I'm going to save the grand speech or what have you for when we are like fully done with Erha. So after volume 11, when it's like done. And boy, I tell you, I'm really thankful for the bonus stories, because if today had been that ending with the actual end of Erha in general, I don't know, man. I wouldn't be able to. At least there's some buffer, right? There's like a whole other volume and then some. Last little bit of this one before like we're done with Erha. And thank fucking God. Jesus. So I'm going to save, the big party and all of that for the end of volume 11. But for now, obviously, that listen, don't expect me to have actual words at this moment. That's what the end of volume 11 is for, because maybe by then I will have cobbled together some thoughts. This story is one for the history books, obviously, and we're not done yet. So let's all go fucking cry for the next 2 days. And then on Thursday, we get to find out whatever the fuck these bonus stories are. And let me tell you, I'm so deeply excited that I cannot possibly describe. Everybody breathe. That was everything I wanted it to be and more, despite the lack of sex. But again, like I said, bonus stories. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Everything I fucking wanted. Everything. And more. So much more out of that ending. That was like the fucking Lord of the Rings ending, but even better with the million different fade to blacks and all of that jazz. I never particularly minded that ending. So it's something like this, even fucking better. Simply everything. Just fucking everything. I'm gonna go get some coffee. I'm gonna do a coffee run. Once again, not gonna do this till the end of volume 11. Thank you for being here. We have first time readers in the chat and on this stream. And that's fucking wild. That's crazy. If you've watched it all the way till now, that's some batshit insanity. You gave me the honor of being the first person to tell you this story, or giving me the honor of being someone to retell you this story. Like you already knew everything that was going to come down, and you decided to let me retell that to you. I'll have actual words at the end of volume 11, but right now I just don't. I just love you a lot. I'll see you in a couple of days. Leave a like on the stream if you cried, and I'll see you on Thursday.